Great. Well, we're live on Facebook and Instagram, and I really want to thank all of you for being here tonight. We call these forums policy perspectives, and I've been doing these for 4 years as a city council member, and we've had commissioners, elected officials, thought leaders, activists on many topics as a way of illuminating issues for the community and bringing people together with thought leaders and people in decision making positions to ask questions and get answers. And so many of you, when you RSVP'd, you submitted questions to ask, and we'll be taking some more of your questions during this. And today we're so excited to welcome Darra Gordon, the executive director of Family Equality. And I'm going to read a little bit of her bio, and then we're going to turn over to her to introduce herself more. But first of all, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited and thrilled, and I'm a New Yorker, so I can't imagine any better place to be and group of people to be chatting with about this topic.
Thank you. Thank you. So she is a nonprofit leader with 20 years of experience advancing social justice and driving organizational growth. She recently served as the deputy president and CEO at GLAD, where she led a 5-year strategic plan and helped triple the organization's budget, and previously spent 15 years expanding the reach of the Hedrick Martin Institute. And that's where we met originally, many years ago. She lives in New York with her wife, Nicole, and their 3 children and 2 dogs. That's a lot. A lot of love and a lot of work.
and a bearded dragon, add in a new member of our family for my oldest.
Oh, that's great. Congratulations. And now you are the CEO of Family Equality. Tell us about Family Equality.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. That was a very kind introduction. I appreciate it, and really proud of all the work that I've done in the past. But really excited about our work here at Family Equality. As you said, I'm a parent of three. You know, my wife and I are raising these 3 children, and so I know firsthand the need for this work. You know, like that we're doing. So we're the only national nonprofit organization that is 100% dedicated to advancing the freedoms and the protections for all LGBTQ families. So we do three things. We advocate for legal protections on the federal, state, and local levels. We connect parents to be LGBTQ parents with each other to vital resources and supports they need to navigate their journey. And the third thing that we do is we educate. So we educate businesses, lawmakers, school educators to just create more inclusive environments for all of our families.
That's wonderful. Really appreciate you being here. We are here tonight in a climate of great uncertainty for many different kinds of people in our United States. And one of them is unconventional families at a time when we have a
Mhm.
federal administration that is openly hostile to people who are from any family that's not a conventional family. That includes LGBTQ families, same-sex parents, and people with trans family members. What right now, what are the top threats that you're seeing out there that should be on people's radars?
Yep. I would say I'll name like the top key ones is I think one, just really understanding how to protect your family, right? This is around protecting your children. And so there is just needing folks to understand a marriage license, or, you know, like that document is an administrative document, right? And so it's really important for folks to look at second parent adoption, confirmatory adoption, which provides more access. So really making sure that if you're leaving the state, we can talk about this. New York, while not perfect yet, is really leading, is really leading the way, and advancing those protections, but still not quite there yet. And so understanding how to protect your family where you need to, because at some point too, you're going to leave the state and you can be in a really hostile state, and to make sure that you do that. And I think the second thing is just really the anti-LGBTQ, right? Bills are just SWAT of over 600, and they affect families in every way, shape, or form. And so I think being aware of what your rights are, and how to protect yourself is going to be really critical. And if you're thinking about forming a family and you're doing that, also getting that head start of really understanding what are the protections you need to put in place, in addition to that, because there's a patchwork throughout the entire country, and I think really being educated and looking at the resources, which we have on our website, is really important as far as one of the key threats. Yeah.
For a family watching now, who lives in New York, where we have so many rights, they could be married or not married. They could have full adoption among the the parents or not. What what should people do specifically right now? What kind of tips are you giving to LGBTQ families right now?
So one of the key tips are to ensure that you have a second parent adoption or confirmatory adoption, because again, even through adoption, or or other methods of forming your family, you sometimes don't have the full protections of that piece of paper, and so the adoption is the most important part of like really understanding their protections, and as well as advocating, for more protections and supports for your family. So if you're a family right now and you have your children, no matter what type of family, a single parent, non-biological, really ensuring that you have fully protected yourself through the legal protections. And we have actually on our website, we have legal resources. We state by state, again, even if you're traveling, to make sure that your children are protected, if they have to go to medical care, if they, are registering for a new school, really ensuring that that process is with ease.
So there are documents that same-sex parents should have on them when they travel outside of New York State. What kind of documents are those, and what do they say?
Yeah, I mean, we're doing the work to actually really provide more protections. Like the work that we're doing to advocate is almost like that passport, right? Like carrying around an ID, carrying around, like your marriage license. If it's certain states, they will not abide by that, which is really sad, and really uncertain. And so, what we are telling folks, especially if you're traveling, is those adoptions, that is the law of the land. It's federally mandated to be able to honor those adoptions. So confirmatory adoption, full adoption are the documents, that folks should be traveling with, especially across states. And I'll even share a story. Again, I don't think we also realize how vulnerable we are, because even frontline workers and policies are not caught up yet. I was in the ER with my oldest just a couple months ago in New York, and my wife was unable to register our daughter in an emergency situation because she wasn't the biological parent. So even with a marriage certificate or a
Wow.
birth certificate, we didn't carry it around on us, and so that was a really scary moment. And I know that we're doing this work through the RAISE Act that we're leading actually in New York, but still, again, the frontline staff policies, they're all lagging, even in the most progressive states. So it is carrying around all your documentation, making sure that you have that second parent adoption if you haven't yet, and not thinking that a birth certificate or a marriage certificate is going to actually fully protect you and your family.
Wow. So a
Yeah.
little bit of more rudimentary question with same-sex uh, parents, where you have one person who is either the person carrying the child or in a uh, or the person who's the donor to the child and the other same-sex parent isn't, does only one of the two have to adopt, or how does that work?
So I will hold fully legal protections to the lawyers, but if if you're using a surrogate, is that what you're asking? If you're using a surrogate? Or
Yeah,
yeah, um, yeah. I mean, surrogacy first became legal in New York actually in 2017. So it's
I
not even
know.
that. I mean, if you can believe, I mean, there's so many people right with children older than that at that point, and so they had to really
Yeah,
um, create some serious situations
right.
around either going to other states to do it. And so if
It
you
would be a
have
surrogate if it was two women. You know, it would be a surrogate if it was two men, but if it was two women, it would be a donor,
and yes.
a sperm donor.
It would be a sperm donor. And so, there's also different advocacy laws too around if it's a like if there are three parents raising a child, it could be a donor that is actually
Hmm.
acting as a parent to the child. And so getting those protections to support are really important. But it is the old, to your point, like that sort of that typical or what they call, like the biblical family of a man and a woman and natural conception is really what these laws are built for. And so what we're trying to do is really create that non-traditional family for the single parent, and for the same-sex parent that might be doing untraditional, typical ways of also creating their family. But there are very specific laws around where that child is born, and who is the birth parent, and that is right now the laws favor all of that birth parent, and
Mm.
it's really tricky. I'll just for my own self, right? Like my wife and I, we used actually egg donor and sperm donor, using reproductive assistance, and so there's assumptions that are also made because she carried, like one of them that was just an assumption, but other times it's not really. The law doesn't protect you, so I had to get,
Mm.
even with the birth certificate, had to get that second parent adoption, just to
Right, right.
protect, just to protect. Yeah.
Right. And so you recommend for same-sex couples that when they travel with their families, that they bring with them a marriage license and adoption paperwork.
Yeah, I recommend traveling with every piece of documentation. I think again, there's some myths out there that because marriage equality, like came to pass or the name is on the birth certificate, that even in hostile states, we're protected, and that's just not not the case.
Right? So if there was some kind of emergency situation where one of the parents had to, assert that this is my child,
No.
you could have someone question that. Now, what does that say about our world that that's how people have
Oh,
to travel?
oh, absolutely. And again, there's just those natural assumptions, right? A man and a woman walk into a medical facility and
Mhm.
nobody really asks for any documentation, but two women, same-sex couple, walk in, and then there's confusion around asking questions around who's the biological parent and who's that. And so it happens pretty regularly. And that's why those federal protections are so critical. So, and while we're working towards the states, that is ultimately where we're putting our efforts as well to keep that pushing, for federal protections. Yeah.
By the way, for folks in the chat, if you would like to submit a question that comes to mind, just direct message it to Office of CM Botcher. Just send a direct message in the chat. We're going to try to get to as many questions as possible. Um, is marriage legal marriage, how important is it that same-sex parents are legally married in addition to the adoption?
Well, I think eh, what I would say is around freedom to marry. It's a critical part of protecting our children. And I don't know if anybody remembers Judge Kennedy raising up the children's voices. That was actually Family Equality's part in moving freedom to marry, is they were moved because of the protection of the children. I mean, that was really critical. So I think it's one part, but it is not the whole part, right? And that's why, because of the patchwork, because of the hostility in so many states, that the second parent adoptions and the confirmatory adoptions, those um, are really important right now. So I would say it's both that are important, but one does not do that. It is the legal adoption that provides that federal protections for young people right now.
Mm. What kind of advice do you give to folks who approach family equality, who are considering starting a family, same-sex couples? What kind of advice do you normally, or guidance do you normally offer to them? And where can people go if they're contemplating using a surrogate or adoption or any other kind of method?
Yep. I mean, most people also, they come to us and they don't know where to start, right? I mean, they don't know where to start. They don't necessarily know how to think about their options. They're not sure around the financial burden. So there's a number of, I would say barriers and decisions and things that same sex, like couples need to think about, and trans parents as well. And so I do also get a lot of questions around where do I start? Like what, yeah, like how do I even think about this? I want to be a parent and we want to begin our family. And then also the financial, like the financial aspect. So what I tell people that are beginning their journey is, one, awesome. Like we are, I mean, I'm so proud of our community. There are 5 million children being raised by 2.5 million LGBTQ parents, which is
Wow.
just extraordinary. If you really think about that, just over the last few decades, this is, like who we are, and we have the same needs, like to have an unconditional family and be able to do that. And we should be free to do that. So I tell folks to, one, go to our site, because we actually have a dedicated site with a number of resources, from really workshops and guides and tools around what are your options, right? Like what path um, would you like to take, and what would you like to explore on that family formation, adoption, foster care, surrogacy, so I think
Familyequality.org.
yep, yep. Thank you for that. Yes, we have over 100 resources actually for different parts of your journey, and we also have financial, financial guidance again. So really understanding what are the costs, how to mitigate some extra costs. If you think about it, insurance, right? So medical insurance for infertility. There are a lot of, but it is not New York. I will say that New York is one of a handful of states that require it, but there are a number of states that will not deem infertility to single parents or same-sex parents unless you've been a different parent for a year attempting. That's how they define infertility. And so, uh, if you haven't
Explain
been,
that, explain that to me a little bit more.
sure.
Infertility.
So let's say my wife and I, are planning to conceive through either IVF or one of those reproductive assistant measures. Our insurance company could, but not in New York, could have said, we don't, that is not covered. We provide infertility through your business and through your plan, but we don't consider that infertility because you're perfectly capable. Your body is perfectly capable, and you don't provide the same proof that will state that you're infertile. And so that's a huge cost barrier where one same-sex couple could end up spending $25,000, for the same procedure as another couple that gets it fully covered to do that. And so that is one area where we are pushing on multiple states and on a federal level to protect families, single parents as well, to be able to have that covered. And there are also a small handful of organizations that provide assistance for LGBTQ family formation. So we're going to update that on our website. They're slow and they're rolling, but we're keeping that updated. And also, there's a number, again, advocating in your employee. Many people, right, are employed by folks that are providing health benefits, and so what has been new and coming out is additional benefits around fertility. And so if you are employed and you want to help advocate, that would be something to ask your employer around what type of coverage for infertility do you have around surrogacy, foster, adoption, that again alleviates some of those financial constraints. So
During the presidential election cycle, IVF came up,
yes,
in vitro fertilization. And the Republicans had said in the Project 2025, uh, ban it essentially. Trump, there was a blowback, so Trump tried to embrace it, pulling the wool over people's eyes, saying that, oh, we love IVF. And um, have you been seeing IVF under attack nationwide?
We haven't been seeing that as much as, the other more
That's
attacks
good.
around trans. Yes, again,
That's
um,
good.
the complications around trans fertility. And I'd like to flip that narrative of like, yeah, more children, it's slowing down, the population is slowing down. So, hey, we as LGBTQ people can actually help solve a problem,
Right.
and
Vance is so worried about that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Right.
same thing with foster and adoption. LGBTQ people are 7 to 10 times more likely to foster or adopt a child. Right now, today, there are 100,000 children ready and able to be find their forever families. And there are so many LGBTQ people that would provide a loving and caring that want to, like that are stepping up to do that. And so I think these are the some of the issues that we need to really break down that discrimination to be able to provide these children, um, and to again solve like these this concern that Vance has. We can help.
Yes, we can. Are there, for same-sex couples around the country, are there states where same-sex couples are banned from adopting? What kind of barriers exist for
Yeah,
same-sex couples who are looking to adopt or foster?
yeah. Um, Sadly, there's about 14 states that it's perfectly legal. These are tax funded um, providers that can turn a person away just because of who they are. So that's perfectly legal in 14 states. In 10 more states, there actually isn't any explicit protections for LGBTQ people. So it might as well, so we're talking 24 states, so it might as well. And so this is one of the reasons why we also reintroduced the John Lewis Every Child Deserves a Family Act, because there are pretty horrific stories. I traveled the entire country the last year, meeting with families and hearing stories of families. And there was a couple that got turned away 7 times. Um, they, again, incredible family. And ironically, the financial barrier wasn't the barrier. So they had to turn to surrogacy, but they were more than willing and happy to adopt a child in need and give them their forever family. So it's really heartbreaking.
Who's shameful.
Yeah.
And with foster parenting, ostensibly there's that same that
It's
same level of discrimination?
Yep, it's the same level. For New York, we actually had a really wonderful panel with Spence Chapin, who's a great resource, adoption and foster care. And they are an inclusive foster care agency and adoption agency. And they have great resources. Same thing if you come to our site, we'll be able to provide the resources for folks. But in the meantime, yes, that is one of our policy objectives on the state and federal level to abolish and create pathways
Hmm.
for adoption and foster.
Does family equality, families with trans kids, is that part of your mission statement, your portfolio?
Yeah, I mean, I would say LGBTQ families are LGBTQ families and those issues. And one day also those trans kids will be trans adults and they dream of families themselves one day. And I have my oldest actually is non-binary and talks about adopting a child. And I can't help in my mind though think, okay, great, you're in New York, but what will be possible for you? And
Yeah.
so we we work with also youth serving organizations. It's a P flag. We're leading LGBTQ Youth and Family Coalition because none of these movements will move without the adults that care about these young people as well. So for us, this is our future, right? I mean, these young people are our future, and so we want to make sure that the parents and the community has the supports for them.
You probably have families in your network who are really struggling with the attacks on trans affirming healthcare, gender affirming healthcare. Excuse me. What kind of um, are those families getting the guidance and resources that they need right now? What is it like for those families right now?
It's terrifying. It's terrifying. I can tell you that it is. It's terrifying for the parents. It's terrifying for um, the adults. Again, if you have a trans parent, your job is to protect your child and again be able to do that. I wake up every day making sure, right, you can provide for your family and you can be there for your family. And so whether it's you know um, job protections, whether it's you know medical care, affirming medical care. And so yeah, a lot of our families are really scared, and that is why we have really doubled down on our resources in public education, and we're going to really focus on the most marginalized, most vulnerable of our families. And we're building that initiative now because this is the moment, right, that they need resources, they need knowledge, and their communities need to know how to support them in this time.
I imagine it's so hard for the kids who aren't hearing these things on television, on reading them on social media about themselves, about their families. Here's a question that someone wrote in saying, how can parents of young children help them understand and cope with everything that's going on?
I I like to focus on those evergreen consistent values, right? Family values, the values we share. And I think with my family and my children, that's what we stick with, right? Like what are our values? And also reassuring them that other people share those values and they're fighting against this, right? And not to normalize this or this is okay or to do it. I think really helping children understand that this is what we believe. These are our family values and these are the values that we uphold, and other people are fighting for those same values as well.
I love this question that someone submitted. What gives you hope about the future for LGBTQ families?
I I I think we are the most resilient, fiercest group of individuals that I've ever seen. We're diverse, we're incredibly strong, and we survive. And I have seen that again, traveling around, like I have seen that. I have seen families that are in states like Florida and they have their children and they said, we're scared, it's terrifying, but we're not going we are not going to go anywhere because somebody needs to stand up to this and make a change. And so I am just incredibly always in awe by the individuals and their strength and their resilience that I see. And as I mentioned, we're growing. I mean, we're growing. I mean, we've got 5 million kids out there that are our next generation. Like my children are going to be able to speak to this and us. And I know others that were before me that have young adults now, and they are standing up to this. So I think we're growing and we are coming together to fight back. And so that gives me hope.
That's so great. There's that um, something that people say about same-sex parents is that they've had to work harder to make the family. They've had to really work towards it. You know, it doesn't really happen accidentally. You have to like fight for it. So when they
I don't
have
know,
it,
unless you're me with twins, that was not planned, but yes.
that brings me to another, so a little bit of a side note. For folks who are watching, why is it that with IVF you have more twins and triplets?
Because I think because you are able to implement more of the embryos. So, as opposed to one embryo, two embryos. And when you're trying to have children and you've tried, I'll speak for myself, for years, and almost to that point of desperate, like want to, you will put as many embryos as you can back to
Mhm.
increase your chances of doing it. And it's costly, right? And it's costly. And so that's one reason why there are many twins in, I think, in the grade schools now and in the middle schools for some. I won't speak for all, and some people are prone to having twins. But
My mom is a twin.
you're what?
My mother's a
Your
twin. I
mother's
have
a twin.
a twin. Yeah.
It's really special. It's really
Yeah.
it's really
We have a
incredible.
lot of twins in our family, interestingly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's not for it doesn't yeah, you can't make assumptions about
Yeah.
everybody and how that happens, but I think again IVF for many people now is something that they're that
Yeah.
that they're turning
Were
to.
the twins your first, were the first two twins, or did you have the one and then the twins?
We had the one and then the twins. Um,
Cool.
so yes, and they're all in middle school now, so it's a blessing and a curse. It's wonderful, but I think what you said
A
is
lot.
if anybody has middle schoolers, add three to the mix, and one day
Yeah.
if you know, you know. Um, but I agree with you. I think the intentionality, the work, the financial investment, everything that goes in, it is you are so committed to this. Like, and again, and I find myself, and it's flop now, is I was so grateful to be able to have a family, right? I mean, I think so many before us didn't even think it would be a possibility. We should all be able to have families without being grateful
Yeah.
because we're allowed, like as LGBTQ people
Hmm.
now. And so it's a right, not a privilege. And so that's some of the work that we're doing, is to make it an accessible right, just like it is for everybody else.
So well put. How are schools these days? I imagine it varies a lot from municipalities and counties and states. But how are school systems doing right now with same-sex parents? And by the way,
Well,
within cities, I'm sure school by school, it
yeah.
varies.
Yeah, it does. I mean, the schools have to follow the state, right? The state laws of the school. So that's why, also one of the reasons why we're doing a lot of work with the states, because then the various districts must, must follow those laws from the state. But I think that's where the battleground is happening. A lot of that battleground is happening in the schools, these book bans and don't say gay, don't say trans, which we were really proud we were a part of defeating, but they're still bubbling up, right, in various places. So that is one of the critical places, especially if you have children, to be visible, to really again mine your school, mine your state, what is sort of bubbling up. I know for me, I'm actually on the board of education. I'm also a public official, Eric, council person, council,
That's cool.
yeah, yeah. But a part of my motivation was because I have, stake in the claim too. My children are in school, and it's really important for them to be able to see, have their reflection mirrored to them in the curriculum, and again, not be othered within a school setting, and to be able to, as they're little, walk in and do story time. I get to do story time and tell a story of two moms, and be able to do that. And so it's really important for all of our children, regardless of what they look like, that they can see themselves in the school. They'll do better, they'll learn better, they'll have more confidence. And so this is one of the areas that, again, it's really important for the community to really keep their eyes open and to come together and to do it. And we are doing work in coalition as well to defeat those bills that creep up.
Yeah. What about workplaces with same-sex families, LGBTQ families? How can workplaces do better?
Yeah. I think that similarly, they can look at their policies, they can look at their benefits again through a lens of inclusivity. All of these policies and all these benefits that many of these businesses that have been running for decades and years, it's really designed, right, for the I call it like the biblical family, right? The man and the woman, and like this is what they need. And so um,
Picture from Mad Men, the
yeah,
guy coming in and then taking the Metro North back to the suburbs, the
yeah,
wife and
exactly. And so that's one. Generally, it's not the family, right? We have
yeah.
single, like we have single parents by choice. There's a number of families. There's step parents and other parents and divorces, and again, it's just for all families. And so I think it's really important for businesses to look at all of those benefits. We're looking on the federal and the state mandate policy level. We actually moved a policy for FMLA, right, that included same-sex families, so people can care for their loved ones, and that's now a federal law as of a few years ago. And so, as you're looking at your businesses, those infertility, benefits, or fertility benefits, access to health care for all, and parent leave, and so all of those things, businesses can really look at how they're thinking about their policies, their leaves, and creating, inclusive policies and benefits for everybody. And it's good for business. It's good for recruitment. It's good for business.
There's a question about autism, um, addressing autism treatments, supports, and resources to keep safe and build self-efficacy. Is that something that you encounter as well within your membership?
Um, I wouldn't be able to speak to that. I could speak to some of the complexities of trans fertility and some of those complexities, but uh, I, and again,
Couples, they go same-sex couples and LGBT families, they experience everything that everyone else does, whether it's you know dyslexia, autism, etc. They go through the same struggles as everyone. They just might see more roadblocks if they're in a place that's not affirming of their family.
exactly. I mean, and that's it's so true, and that is why everything that we do is through the lens of our most vulnerable, right? People with disabilities, low income, black, brown, immigrant. I mean, if we really think about, if you do that work, and think about that, it's just everybody wants, they, again, their desires are there. It's just the barriers and the roadblocks are more extreme, and the intersectionality of it is, again, really disproportionately affects
Yeah.
uh, things around health care and health. Yeah.
Yeah. Here's a question someone submitted that says, asked about connecting events, networking events for people wanting to build an LGBTQ family as a lesbian. Do you at Family Equality, what kind of social opportunities and connecting opportunities do you provide for families?
Yep. I will use this opportunity to say we were actually founded through connection and the need for connection. We were founded as the Gay Dads Coalition, and where they were leaving their different sex marriages with
The
children.
original name?
That was the original name.
Dad's Coalition.
Yep. And they were coming out, they were, being their authentic selves, and they had children, and they were being met with actually losing access and permission
Hmm.
to be parents for that. And so they started coming together to share resources, to be a support group for each other, to build communities, and it kind of went throughout the entire country from California to New York. And so community, we understand just how important community is, and what it actually, like, evidence based does, to for confidence, for resources, for support. So we have we are building, we're calling them family hubs, right? Throughout the entire country. We do one of the largest in P-Town once a year, and it's the largest in the entire world of LGBTQ gatherings, where people come from all over and they build community, and the children get to see, like, other families
Family
and
Week in
friends.
P-Town.
Yep, Family Week in P-Town, it's in July. We do events in the South and the Midwest. And so we do events with community to build community, right? So we're not coming and then we're going. And so I would tell folks to come look at our website for events. We actually do a bunch in New York. We're doing Incredible. It's a bowling event for families.
Oh,
March
that's
1st.
cool.
It's going to be
That's
really
on March
fun.
1st.
March
Is that
1st.
Chelsea Piers?
It's at Chelsea Piers. Yep. So
Great.
definitely check that out on our website. It's a lot of fun. It's really family friendly for folks that are thinking about it, and folks that have children, and children that have, already grown up, so they provide resources. The other thing that we would do, that I would offer up as well, is we have support groups. So for folks that are beginning their family journey, to be able to connect with other families and other members of the LGBT community that are also on their journey, and to be able to have support and connection that way as well. So,
That's great.
and that's
What
also,
is
you can find on their website. You can actually just click.
familyequality.org?
Yep.
Awesome. What are the most common forms of for LGBTQ families? Is it surrogacy, adoption? What uh, do you see most often? And here's a question about that someone submitted about, do people ever just ask a friend, someone else in their life, to be the donor or the surrogate? And how does that work legally?
Yep. Um, I There's two things. There's because this is so new, I think, in the movement, is there isn't a ton of data, and that is something that we're actually working on around um, families, and really, again, having it be an inclusive survey and way of asking it. So we are partnering to find out more. But what I will say, what we do know, is it actually varies and really depends upon the individuals, right? And again, whether it's financial or just what they want. There are families, and they really feel like they want to be biologically connected, right? And so that's important to them. There are others that I've talked to, women, and they really want to experience, carrying a child. And so, and then there are others that really feel very strongly about adopting a child, and there are many children, like, in the world. And so it's very individualized. It really, again, and when I was starting my family, I wasn't really totally sure, but one thing my mother said that I never forgot, she said, if you want to be a parent, you're going to be a parent. like just you don't know what the journey is going to take you, but if that is what you want, you keep going, like until that is what you're going to get. And so I think there's just various ways, and it runs the gamut of it. But I will say the one thing that we do know is what the statistic that I said around LGBTQ people are 10 times more likely to foster than a heterosexual same-sex couple, and they are 7 times more likely to adopt.
It's great.
Yeah.
That's really great. Interesting question in the chat saying, is there any movement to make IVF or surrogacy costs tax deductible?
Oh, I don't know who asked that question, but I can offline. I just had a conversation today. So there is a movement, and it is actually between New York and California that those conversations are really bubbling up around that. And so one of our priorities will be looking at some of those tax laws and those tax breaks.
Oh,
There
that's
are
exciting.
some that exist around adoption and foster, but we need to do more. And one of the things that we need to make sure that, yes, it's accessible for everybody. I think the average adoption rate now is about $50,000 on
Wow.
average. Yep,
Yeah, we need to lower the barrier to adoption.
yep, yep.
There's a question, and by the way, we should talk. I want to help with that. So let's talk about that.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. Question that says, I'm a single woman raising a son who's 5 years old. How do I teach him about LGBTQ acceptance, supporting friends and family who are? What advice do you have? Another way of asking it would be, what advice do you have to non-LGBTQ families to help their kids learn more about
Yep.
different types of families?
Um, I'd go back to one of my answers to my other question, just in regards to some baseline. I think it's as an ally, I think it's really important to stand in your values and teach your child the values, right? And that difference is beautiful. I mean, I started saying that like that being different is a wonderful, beautiful thing. And so to be able to I love seeing a kid. My kids are usually like behind me, but I think I told them to stay
You
up.
see Gerald, gotta keep
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So I think, yeah, I think celebrating difference and also modeling that, and again, showing that difference is beautiful and humanity is humanity, and that's our values, right? Those are our values, and if somebody doesn't have those values, we have a lot of folks that are fighting, to ensure about that. I think. Especially if you have family members that are LGBTQ or friends that are LGBTQ, they really just get to see, right? Other types of families, other types of people, and to celebrate the beauty in that.
That's great. Well, we're coming up on the hour. I wanted to give you an opportunity just to share your thoughts about how you feel now. I love the hope and optimism that you exude because it's so easy to get depressed and discouraged when
Yes,
you watch the news and you're reading social media and it's the negative
yes,
that rises up.
yep.
But we really have come so far.
Hmm.
We do have so much. You said 5 million children in the United States are being raised in LGBTQ family structures. That's extraordinary.
Yeah. I thank you for offering that. I would say, um, action is the antidote in this moment, right? And so whatever that action is, um, as some people said, what can I teach my child, or what can I do coming to a school board meeting, or like again, um, I always encourage folks, right? Like if you can give something to invest in organizations that are investing in you, do that. There's many great organizations. We're one of them, so I'm biased, but there are like many organizations out there. But I think that taking action, sharing your story, being an ally, really thinking about something you can do in this moment it for me and for my team, I believe that that is the anecdote. Because you're right, it can feel awful, and watching the news can be so so discouraging. But staying in hope and action is really, I think, critical for this community. And then my last thing is saying, yes, come to our website, visit us, come to Incredible, and we have another event. So I'm going to plug that in May 11th. It's Night at the Pier. Every one of our events, I don't know if they're that little, Gerald, but all of our events, it's bring your family, bring children. It's so refreshing. We had a gala, and I brought all my kids. They're, like they're 12 and 13, and there were other kids there. And so it's really about family, every single thing that we do. So I invite everybody to learn about us and come and join us wherever you can.
The gala last year was awesome. Who
Wasn't it?
was the big, you had, remind me who the big
Oh, yeah, it was
star?
Jason Weinberg and Merritt Johnson. Those were the two. And
Amazing.
we had their story was extraordinary. They had Demi Moore, Debbie Harry. Do you remember that? Debbie Moore,
I'm
Debbie
sure.
Harry, and Marlo Thompson. And they shared this most incredible story at the time, right, where surrogacy was illegal and like what it took for them. I mean, can you even imagine? Like, they had
Yeah.
all the access in the world, and it was so difficult. But their journey was, pretty incredible. And this year is going to be even better. I can't give away any secrets, but
Ooh, exciting. So
yeah.
March 1st, bowling on the pier. Go to familyequality.org to learn about that. And then May 11th for your big events. We really, really, really appreciate you being here. I've learned a lot. I'm even, someone I'm a professional gay. I could say I worked in
I think
LGBTQ
I am
advocacy,
too. I think I am too.
and I'm still learning, but I'm also someone who's single with no kids, no pets, no plants. So I'm always learning about this. People ask me if I'm gonna have kids. I have a that's way up the responsibility ladder for me.
It is, and I have lots of friends that have said, "Good for you." And I
Yeah.
said, I understand. I totally get that now that I have
I have
that.
a
I
niece and
get it.
nephews. I love my niece and nephews.
There you go. That's perfect arrangement. It takes a village. I love all of our uncles too. Like can't do it
Yeah.
alone. So you've got an important job.
Well, thank you so much for being
You.
here. And thank
Thank
you so
you.
much, everyone, for joining us. This is the last one of these forums that I'm going to do as a city council member
Oh my gosh.
in this office, but we're going to continue doing them in my future roles in public service. And I'm really excited for it. And I just thank you, Darra, for being here and everyone else for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you. And yeah, we're keeping an
Thanks,
eye on
everyone.
you. Bye.
Take care.